quick introduction to Humanities Team as we get started. In Humanities Team, we believe there is only one presence, the divine, and that we're all emanations of the divine. This is true for each of us and all of life. It doesn't matter how far our lives may be from reflecting this truth, it's still true. Our invitation is to live in communion with the divine and to be an authentic expression of the presence, peace, and power that are our true essence. We don't need to be perfect or even excellent. We're invited to simply receive God's love and be an expression of that, each in our own way. We can be intentional about this, so we live this way each day. And of course, when we do this together, we create the world that we know is ours. Okay, concerning today's program with Dwayne Elgin and Barbara Marx Hubbard, I'd like to invite you now to go ahead and share your questions by placing them in the chat window. The sooner that you place your comments and questions there, the better. This way we can get to them before the 90 minutes is up. And try, if you can, try and bring them in the first 60 minutes, because sometimes we get a rush of questions and things like in the last 10 minutes and we can't get to them. I'd also like to extend an invitation to those of you who receive value from our weekly programming. Our weekly programs cost us about $1,000 to produce each week, and we provide these programs, of course, free to the public. If you find value in our programming, we invite you to go to humanitiesteam.org, our website, and at the top of the Humanities Team website, you'll see a yellow donate button. You can click there to contribute so we can keep these programs free for viewers. We're also placing that donation link in the chat window. And thank you for your generosity. Thanks also to recent donors that are indicated in our slide. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to read a brief introduction for our special guest now. Barbara Marx Hubbard has been called the voice for conscious evolution of our time by Deepak Chopra and is the subject of Neale Donald Walsch's book, The Mother of Invention. A prolific author, visionary social innovator, evolutionary thinker, and educator, she is co-founder and chairperson of the Foundation for Conscious Evolution. She is the producer and narrator of the award-winning documentary series, Humanity Ascending, A New Way Through Together, and has partnered with the Shift Network as a global ambassador for the conscious evolution movement, a shift from evolution by chance toward evolution by choice. Along with Shift, she launched training and formed a global team to co-produce a global multimedia event entitled Birth 2012, co-creating a planetary shift in time on December 22nd, 2012, a historic turning point event, awakening the social, spiritual, scientific, and technological potential of humanity. You can visit awakennewspecies.com to learn more about Barbara. Again, that's awakennewspecies.com. And welcome, Barbara, to this program. Great to have you with us.
I'm so happy to be here, really, and with my dear friend Dwayne. This is great.
All right, and let me give Dwayne a proper introduction. Dwayne Elgin is an internationally recognized author and speaker regarding our time of planetary transition to a promising future. His books include The Living Universe, Voluntary Simplicity, Promise Ahead, and Awakening Earth. With Joseph Campbell and other scholars, he co-authored Changing Images of Man. He has contributed to numerous studies of the long-range future since the early 1970s, first while working as a senior social scientist in Washington, D.C. on a presidential commission on the American future, and then with the Futures Group in the think tank SRI International. Dwayne Elgin received the Peace Prize of Japan, the Goi Peace Award, in Tokyo in 2006 in recognition of his contribution to a global vision, consciousness, and lifestyle that fosters a more sustainable and spiritual culture. He is the executive director of a project bringing together more than a dozen great transition stories that offer new ways of understanding our time of profound global change. Dwayne received an MBA from the Wharton Business School and an MA from the University of Pennsylvania. His professional websites are greattransitionstories.org, and his personal website is dwayneelgin.com. And welcome, Dwayne, to this program. Great to have you with us.
Good to be here, and with my dear friend Barbara.
All right. Well, I'm really thrilled here to be with both of you. Thank you for being here. We're just going to jump right in, and Barbara, if it's okay, I'm going to come over to you first. And I know that one of the things that you're inviting people to find right now is you're asking them what new is awakening in you. And I know that you feel this is a very important question right now. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Yes. I have realized a very interesting thing, that the whole life cycle of Homo erectus and Homo neanderthal before us, then came our type, Homo sapiens. Apparently, Homo sapiens was the very best killer that ever hit this earth. They could kill the big game, they had the big teams, and Erectus and Neanderthal are gone, and Homo sapien is here. Now, we have been a super brilliant species. We have been able to invent writing and philosophy and science and technology, and we've also about to destroy the earth. Well, what I realize is the tradition of Homo sapiens sapiens is to prevail and grow over. Meanwhile, there have been new people you might call the great avatars, the Buddha, the Jesus, the Christ, throughout human history, but most of us couldn't do it. Here's my thought. Millions of so-called ordinary people are waking up internally from every field, culture, and discipline to something more inside themselves. A deeper love, a deeper creativity, a deeper attunement to source. It's not a new religion. It's not a new organization. It's a new person. And so I'm making an outrageous hope that out of Homo sapiens sapiens is coming a new humanity, and I'm calling us Homo universalis. This is a universal species who is spiritually awakened, who is vocationally aroused to give our gifts, and who is using the high-tech genius of humanity, nanotech, biotech, quantum computing, etc., to heal the earth, free the people, and explore the greater regions of inner and outer space. So when you ask me something new, I think I ask almost everybody, do you feel anything new happening in you? And if you do, and they start shyly, well, yes, I sort of do, then I say, well, let's see whether that could be you're evolving toward a new humanity, person by person. So that's my thought.
And Barbara, related to this now, and you share when speaking with you personally, how are you doing? You say, I feel new. So can you just bring in that personal dimension? And Barbara, you probably don't mind me sharing. Barbara's 88. She has more energy than I do. And probably has even stronger mental capacity. So well, Barbara is new. Barbara, can you talk a little bit?
When people say Barbara, because I am very turned on by things I'm doing, they'll say, do you feel younger, Barbara? I say, no, I don't feel younger. I feel newer. And I realize it's because I am newer. It doesn't matter what age you are. If you are vocationally activated to give something great, good, and loving in the world, whether you be a mother with a child, if you be a gardener, or you be the biggest scientist or evolutionary, if you're motivated to say yes to that inner impulse, you're motivated to become something more. And just in the sense of evolution itself is creating higher consciousness, greater freedom, more complex order. For billions of years, from single cell to multi-cell to animal to human. So I am a little human being right here in the biggest transition we've ever done collectively. And my newness, your newness, could be the impulse of evolution inside you, giving you guidance as to how to be more loving, more creative, and more gorgeous. And since I'm declaring it to be so, intention creates reality. So I don't know how you feel about this, Dwayne.
All right, and Dwayne, you might go ahead and answer that, and then we're gonna come over to you. But you might just come in and share your thought on that.
First of all, it's such a delight to have this time with Barbara and with you, Steve. But Barbara and I have been in conversation about these things for over 40 years.
I know.
So this is just a delight. I so appreciate Barbara's pioneering inquiries. And so Barbara's saying, well, she sees us as Homo universalis. We're beings of the earth, but beings of the cosmos as well. And I've been writing, well, we are different than what we thought. We are biocosmic. We're both biological and a part of the cosmos. And science is coming along and saying, you know, the body with its sensory organs can access about 5% of the known universe. 95% of the known universe is invisible to our senses, but is knowable through our intuition. That is key. 95% is not knowable through our senses, but it is, Barbara and I would suggest, knowable through our intuition.
Right.
And so we are cosmic beings if we'll open to the scope of who we already are. And the universe is no longer regarded as a collection of just pieces floating about, but rather more as a hologram, a dynamically created hologram, and we're inside of this hologram, and that means we start from a place of wholeness instead of separation.
Yes.
So we're starting from wholeness and saying, well, we're biocosmic beings, and we're learning to live in this living universe. What an amazing journey. Thank you, Barbara.
Well, thank you, Dwayne. Now, let's just take one moment, if I can, because whenever I get two or more gathered who are coming up with something of a higher frequency together, you know what the universe does? This is my opinion. See, the universe tends to create empathy. It tends to create syntropy. It tends to create the coming together of separate parts to make a greater whole.
Yeah.
And it's exactly this resonance that I feel with you, Dwayne, that we could imagine for a moment there are X number of us like this on planet Earth, in all cultures, sizes, and shapes. I'm going to put forward a proposal that if we had the way through internet of connecting those who are most resonant with the impulse inside themselves and with what they would like to do about it in a kind of marvelous celebration of reality, the universe itself would help connect it.
Indeed.
You know, we wouldn't have to go one by one to get along with each other all the way. We might find that the very thing that brings whole systems together could work for us.
Yeah. Do you see that garden of new possibility growing right now?
I do.
All right.
I do.
Is it coming alive right now? That's what I see. Let me put one statistic into this to really ground the awakening that's underway, because it's measurable. The world is awakening. And in 1962, a survey was done on mystical experiences. Have you had a mystical experience where you feel at one with the universe, where you feel you belong in the universe, where you feel love at the foundations of the universe, and so on? 22% of the adults in the U.S. said, yeah, I've had a mystical experience. 22% in 1962. We go ahead a half century, and in 2009, it had gone from 22% to 49%.
Wow.
And now it's 2017, and we're surely gone beyond 50%, which means we are more a nation of mystics than we are a nation of materialists.
Yeah.
And the change is underway. We just haven't caught up with it. And it takes, I so appreciate Barbara bringing the understanding. Well, let's catch up with where we already are experientially. And Barbara's saying millions of us are having this experience of awakening and new understanding. Well, yes, let's bring the larger culture into that key understanding, and then we can move from there.
It's so true. And you know, Dwayne, I love to make up words, and a word that's made up is we're telerotic.
Telerotic.
Now, eros is love, juicy love, and telos is purpose. It seems that one of the characteristics of the people waking up with that feeling of oneness that we're putting forward so wonderfully through Humanities Team and Global Oneness Day is also juicy love wanting to go into high creative purpose through joining. And it could be, Dwayne, that nature is evolving the next step after joining genes to have the baby. Nature is joining genius to give birth to each other. Out of love, out of creativity, out of telerotic, juicy telos and eros. And that nature doesn't want more and more babies. Nature wants only chosen children. Because we already would have more than enough if we doubled it again and die. But nature seems to be arising inside us the desire to create and to co-create rather than only procreate. And the joy of sexuality, it seems to me, is extending itself into the joy of joining genius.
Indeed.
By attraction to each other, by sharing genius, as we share genes to create this magnificent species. And also, we're living 50, 60, 70, I'm 88. Now, I'm hearing from these other guys that, you know, if you're 40 now, you might live for a really long time. Well, so I'm not 40, but I'm going to do as well as I can. Why? Because I'm erotic. And last thought, Bruce Lipton, epigenetics. I am sure that if you get telerotic and get turned on, you're giving a message to your cells who are saying, oh, there's more to do around here. And so this newness that I feel is not, I am aging, but I'm not aging in an ordinary way.
Yeah.
I feel that the aging, yes, the body is older, but the cells are awakening to more excitement. And I'm wondering what you think about that, Dwayne.
Well, see, this is totally congruent with living in a living universe. If the universe is alive and we open to that aliveness, instantly we are drawing newness, aliveness, freshness into ourselves. It's already true, but we are bringing it consciously into our being. And so I really like what you're saying. You are getting old, but you're still new. And well, indeed, every moment we're new, we're fresh, it's alive. The universe is getting continuously regenerated. Every moment is an opportunity for a fresh start. So, first of all, I really resonate with that sensibility, and it's certainly true for myself. I wake up and I am energized by the enterprise of purpose that you're speaking about, of learning to live in this living universe.
Yes. And you know, just jumping a thought here about robotics is there's this danger of robots doing what humans used to do. Basically, if humans can do that which they're most creative at, that which they most want to do in an entrepreneurial way,
yes,
rather than being hired for jobs to behave like robots to keep the machines going, can you see what a celebration we could have if we're liberated from subhuman? Let the machines do the part of that is repetitive, and let every one of us know that we're born as a unique being expressing creativity together. I mean, it's such a celebration. You know, Dwayne, you and I have this together. There's so much pessimism out there. And yet here we are sitting with this particular passion and love for where the human species can be going, and maybe even the crisis itself is an evolutionary driver.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, the way I see what's happening in the world, very simplistically, but realistically, is that we have Earth-sized pushes, challenges. It's an Earth-sized push. It isn't just regional. It is the entire planet is moving into systems crisis and pushing us into a new species sense. At the same time, we have universe-sized poles. It's a cosmic scope of pull, saying we're beings of cosmic scope and dimension. Move into that reality and then look back and regard the earth and its future from that place of perception and compassion. And we are so immersed now within the mindset of marketing and culture and corporations and such. We're not standing back as biocosmic citizens to actually regard the earth that is our home. And the deeper home is the universe from which we regard that. And so we're in a process of extraordinary freeing up of old patterns of perception, saying, well, I am this ethnic person or this nationality or this race and so on. That's all true. But we are all citizens of the living universe. We're all trying to find our way home. And our way home all together, one way or another, however words we use to describe it, is home back into the living universe and beyond that into the mother universe that holds it all.
I mean, I agree so much. And, you know, Dwayne, you and I have both had this love of the media. I want to point something out that we take for granted is like you and I are looking face to face to each other. And everybody else who's on this is seeing us like this and all the questions that are coming in. If you were living at the time of Jesus, they would think we were gods. We're holograms. We're doing this all by ourselves. And I feel as intimate with you, and maybe even more intimate than if we were in a room together.
Sure.
And so I've taken some of these new capacities that we have, nanotech, biotech, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, which can be disastrous if used as in a divisive way. It's beginning even with our cell phones. We've got the global brain in our hand. It's amazing. Sure. I have this cell phone, and you know, I hold it like this. This cell phone is an extension of me with the global brain in my hands. Any question, anywhere on earth I can have. I can travel with the speed of light anywhere in the world. I have access to all the wisdom of the past. So just when, you know, in this image that I have now of awakening the new species as Homo universalis, I'm really seeing something as great as Sapiens was in relationship to Neanderthal or certainly Erectus. Nature doesn't care for species, it cares for purpose. It doesn't keep everything. It seems to keep that which goes into deeper love, into deeper creativity, into deeper wholeness. I mean, that's a big statement, but I don't see, I see huge direction towards higher goodness and love here.
I'll come in here real quick. Boy, this was valuable, just this exchange back and forth. So thank you. We're off to a great start here. Let me share, there are a bunch of questions here, so thank you, viewers. We're going to get to your questions here in just a moment. Barbara, you're perfect on camera now. When you're a little closer so we can't see your full face, this is perfect here right now.
I got so excited by Dwayne that I was putting my head into the computer.
All right, we're going to, absolutely, you all, this is really, there's a great synergy here, isn't there? So, and we've also kind of meandered on the path and covered a lot of really, really important things, at least at a high level. Let's go down into some things. I mentioned, Dwayne, in your introduction, Great Transitions Initiative that you worked with Joseph Campbell. And of course, a lot of your life work is this, the hero's journey or Great Transition Initiative, inviting people into this space of we're here now, what is our invitation? What are the things that we can do to personally be fulfilled and to create the collective path that leads this earth out? Do you want to, you've put a tremendous amount of work into, again, great transition stories. Do you want to talk about that, the power of stories, why you've gone in that direction, and just things that you might suggest to people as we're all on this journey together here at this auspicious time on the earth?
Sure. Well, certainly one of the key attributes of our time is it's confusing, and it's incredibly complex. The world's unraveling. Things are falling apart. How are we to make sense of this? The past is just being forgotten. The future is unknown. This is how do we, in a simple way, make sense of this? And it's one thing to work in a think tank and spend years in doing analysis, but the average person has a simple story about what's going on in the world. And so I've been looking for decades now at these simple stories, often a story of 6 words or less, to make sense of what we're doing. And one would be, humanity is growing up. 4 words. Humanity is growing up. And I'll ask people, what is the life stage of the human family? Toddlers, teenagers, adults, elders. Overwhelmingly around the world, people say we're in our teenage years. Now that's good news, because beyond our teenage years is our early adulthood. And if we can get into our early adulthood, the maturity of that, the compassionate regard that Barbara speaks of that connects with that, we have a chance to really come together as a species and into a promising future. So there's a way of taking the complexity of our world and looking at it in a very human way that people relate to say, well, look, we're just growing up. Well, what does that mean, we're growing up? Well, we're going to have to take responsibility for the world that's been created around us. Like it or not, we're going to have to just handle things. We're going to have to take a hard look at ourselves and who we are and where we're going from here and so on. So that would be an example of a transition story. Another is, connecting with what Barbara was saying about media. Well, humanity is waking up. 4 words. Well, it's the mass media. The global brain is waking up. What is it doing? Well, it's selling us a bunch of stuff. The global brain is not steering us in the direction of a living universe, and we are waking up to that, but rather it's saying, have we got things for you to consume? So these stories are really important. Simple though they are, they profoundly orient us as we move into the future. So that's one level of describing what's going on at the story level. And Barbara, bless her heart, has been going beneath the level of story in some respects to let's look at the reality of who we are. Homo universalis. We're a being of the universe, not only of the earth, we're a being of the cosmos. Let's look back in regard at what's happening from that perspective. Extraordinary transition in story, going from earth beings to cosmic as well as earth beings. So we're in a time of profound transition in terms of the story we tell ourselves about who we are and where we're going, and that in turn can make all the difference whether we can get there.
You know, I've so joined with you on this issue of the new story. I would say it's been my main thrust. And I've had this discussion with you, it seems to me, over the years, because I totally agree with everything you're saying. And I just want to look at the situation from a different perspective, which is a Gestalt perspective, a universal perspective, seeing Earth as a living system.
Yeah.
As the astronauts did. And I have had some amazing experiences being in the universal astronaut perspective and feeling myself as a member of the living system of planet Earth. When I do that, I notice I have a communication system that runs through the planet. I have a production system. I have these horrible wars that I can feel the tortures and the people as though it's my body. And I won't go much longer, but I saw a few frames ahead in the movie of this story. And here's what I saw, and it hasn't yet happened, but I'm working to give my best to help it to happen. And here's what happened. We felt extreme pain as a species, enough to stop. Whether it be the assassination, these terrible hurricanes, you see Puerto Rico is smashed. It's something that is so awesome, we stop.
Yeah.
And with that, I felt empathy. And what happened, and I'm using a past tense for a future impulse, what happened was the empathy didn't stop. Most of us feel empathy every time we see a tragedy, but it leaves us, and we go on with the illusion of separation. This birth experience, the empathy was strong enough that people's empathy attracted other people's empathy, attracted other people's empathy. You went quantum empathy, out of which came the deep inner impulse of the inner voice speaking. Now, all the religions of the world had been identified by great beings who spoke literally from within. They spoke direct. What seemed to happen in the mass empathy was a lot of direct speaking. And I've learned to do that. I have a mental mind. I can speak from my mental mind. When I speak from my deeper mind, I don't think. I know. And it's an inspired speaking modality that is very native to almost anybody if you do it, but you have to slow down. You let the inner voice guide. And what happened in this big planetary experience with the mass empathy was mass speaking from within. And it felt to me like the walls of religion went down. They weren't there anymore. They were there as long as people could not hear from within.
So Barbara, I'm going to just, come in here because I know you're going to talk. We're going to go into this a little bit deeper during the program, where you talk about your own process for how you awaken the new species in you. But before we get to that, I want to just talk about something that's so relevant that you're discussing here, which is that of course we've got these nationalist populist movements here in the United States and elsewhere in the world, and progress that was moving forward is now U-turning and it's heading back the other way, right? I'm smiling, but it's not very funny. And of course you frame this as our crisis is our birth. So there's an opportunity here, there's an invitation here, that everything actually is in divine order. Now, you've talked a little bit about this, but can you go deeper into this? Because I think everybody's experiencing this crisis, and I'm not sure everybody's staying attuned to the aspect of this is a birth, there's a great opportunity here.
Yes, well, the crisis is a birth is a metaphor to say that something new is emerging. First of all, it has to emerge or we go extinct. And nature has created a crisis like birth because when a new baby is just born, if it doesn't breathe and it dies. Let's assume we're a planetary organism. We're seeing the danger of climate change and all the other problems and weather and so on. And we've been told by really important scientists that we could render our species almost extinct. Okay, so I'm taking that as nature's impulse to find a way to activate in us more empathy, more creativity, so that we go beyond the existing divisions. So while the world is getting more divided in nationalisms of various kind, there's a group of people kind of breaking loose from all that separation. And that's the global oneness, sweetheart. That's what you've been cultivating all your life. So those people breaking loose now are also becoming, let's say, empathetic and joined together, like on this big call. How many of us joined at the higher frequency does it take to lift the system's consciousness? How many?
Yeah, tipping point, right?
What percentage?
Well, they say 3 to 5%, right? This tipping point.
If enough of us are joined, so what I feel when I say this, out of the depression of daily life and how I can see things wrong, and also the suffering that people are suffering, there is what I call the evolutionary impulse. And for me, the evolutionary impulse is like a core of the evolutionary spiral. It's divine. It's the genius of evolution. It's supramental genius in Aurobindo's language. And when I feel I can say yes to my own inner impulse to create, I feel the supramental, greater genius of universal evolution enters my soul. And it comes out like vocation and love.
Beautiful, and I love empathy is something you're really highlighting and underscoring and bold-facing here, Barbara, in what I'm hearing you say is this, as we talk about the crisis is our birth, what the empathy, sustained empathy, collective empathy is part of this birthing process. So we'll go deeper on that, but I want to come over to Dwayne, because Dwayne, in your book, The Living Universe, you share that it's perfectly, it's what we would expect, that people would live their lives as they are today without regard for humanity and the planet, where they think the planet is dead. But where they believe that it's alive, they would shift their life. And I want to just, my little personal story here related to this is, I was in Silicon Valley and I was a tech entrepreneur in the 90s. And when I had my own epiphany of, oh my God, that truly we're all a part of one, we're interrelated, interconnected, and interdependent, that life is holy, it's sacred, and as I'm looking out on the world, I'm looking at the holy and the sacred. It's alive and it's holy and it's sacred. And it was then that I realized that just being a tech entrepreneur was kind of like a kid's game, because I was focused on just increasing revenue and profit. And, at a time when all of this is going on in the world, and I thought, my God, at the end of my life, how would I feel about myself if I were a serial entrepreneur, just growing companies, their revenue and profit, moving on to the next one, and not giving my gifts, kind of as a puzzle piece, as it were, with people like you and these other amazing leaders around the world that are a part of this awakening process. So I just, what you say in your book was true for me. I really took to heart what I was feeling into, and I realized I needed to career change. But this is a central theme in your work. So, if you could talk a little bit about
it. Indeed. It's understandable that we would exploit the world around us if we think it's just dead matter and empty space. That's just natural. And that's how science has regarded the universe for the last 300 years or so. And it has been so successful, as Barbara indicated, it's been tremendously successful. We've been so successful, we're about to extinct ourselves because we're over-consuming the Earth. So there are two things that are emerging I want to really emphasize. One is unity consciousness, that we're all in this together. This is a team effort. We created it together, we're in it together, and all the rest. It's unity consciousness. But beyond unity consciousness, there's something that Barbara, I feel, is speaking to. And it's generative consciousness. It's the erotic, it's creative consciousness. Yes. But it arises out of unity. Mm-hmm. It's not other than the unity, it's rather the inherent creativity within understanding the unity of the universe.
Beautiful.
So that is new. For thousands of years, we've had an understanding of the unity of it all. Now something new is emerging, and that is coming out, I think, of the dynamism. We understand dynamism culturally now, and so we can see it spiritually. We can represent it spiritually, and that's what Barbara is speaking about. There's this erotic, creative impulse in the universe that arises out of the compassionate understanding of it all. And so there's an ethicality to it. There's a purpose to it. It isn't just ego-driven. It is pulled by the welcoming invitation of a living universe.
Beautiful, Dwayne. I love that word, a generative consciousness.
Yeah.
I haven't used that word that way because the impulse generates. And the reason for getting newer and not getting older, I'm generative. And I have never been so generative in my entire life. And just very, very briefly, it started for me when the U.S. dropped the atomic bombs on Japan. I was 15, and I asked the question, what's the meaning of all our new power that's good? Because I thought we must be good. I was born to think we were good. And I got to meet President Eisenhower, and I asked him, what do you think is the meaning of science, technology, industry, all this military power, which was just beginning to be huge, that's good? And he shook his head and he said, I have no idea. And the university didn't know, the Episcopal Church didn't know, And I decided we better find out. So if you really begin to consider the meaning of science, technology, industry with all the new radical high-tech capabilities to be good, when I say Homo universalis, I'm including all that. So not only is it earthbound and generative and cosmic, but this species has awesome capabilities. That it looks to me like Mother Earth is giving birth to a co-evolving, co-creative, eventually universal species, the whole thing.
Wow. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, just that there's no way that any single individual is doing that alone. But there's also no way to get out of this game. You can't not be part of this. You can not like it. You can protest it, but you can't get out.
Yes, the evolutionary tornado was put down, hasn't it?
You can't get out of Mother Earth. So if we're generative, and we're the group of us, wherever we may be worldwide, who's generatively turned on by vocational arousal to create, to love, and to connect, are transforming the world. And what we're saying, Dwayne, with what's so marvelous with working here with Steve and Humanity's team, is let's connect them for a solid year in what we're calling Awaken the New Species. Everybody who feels this on internet with, per week, once a week, we'll be on. We'll have speakers like Dwayne there, but we'll also have our own unique inner impulse through the 52 codes, which are something I was given to help me become aware of my own universal self, aware of myself in the future. I think it could be seminal, what we're undertaking.
Perfect. Let's go. Let's talk about some of your panels, because Barbara, you're on 2 panels during Global Oneness Day, which, by the way, let me just share it for viewers that haven't taken a look at Global Oneness Day. To invite you to Google Global Oneness Day, or just go to globalonenesssummit.org. And globalonenesssummit.org, there are 3 S's there. It looks a little funny, but that's the URL for the website. There are amazing leaders that are participating in Global Oneness Day. Barbara and Dwayne and many others, Michael Beckwith and Panache Desai and Matthew Fox and Marianne Williamson and Neale Donald Walsch. Thank you for putting up that slide here, Garth Catterall. You can see here some of the speakers. That's just the first 3 rows that are in this slide. If you go to globalonenesssummit.org, you'll see these incredible panels. There's a Science of Oneness panel with Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Lynn McTaggart, and Nassim Harriman. That's stunning, but I almost shouldn't just read that panel, because every one of the panels is stunning. globalonenesssummit.org. It's free. For the first time this year, it's in video. It's an over 12-hour program. So you can, since it's on video, you can just invite your friends over, order pizza or something healthy in, and just enjoy the day for free. And it's going to be incredibly inspiring, but it's much more than inspiration. It's a call to action. It's a call to action that now, in this day and age where there's all of this stuff, and where we're stepping back from helping the environment and climate change, that the grassroots needs to become involved. So it's a huge theme here during a Global Oneness Day, which we call our Earth Day in Awakened Humanity. So I want to invite you all to register for that program and put it on your calendar. Tuesday, October 24th, put it in ink. An amazing 12-plus hour program. Dwayne, I'm going to maybe come to you, and then we'll go back to Barbara. You're on this incredible panel during Global Oneness Day. Do you want to talk about your panel here briefly?
I've been on so many panels, Steve. I'm not sure.
The Restoring Mother Earth panel, and Dwayne is on with James O'D, Michael Dowd, Reverend Michael Dowd, and Ambassador Anwar Chowdhury.
Oh, yes, this is going to be a wonderful panel. James is such a dear, nonviolent soul. I'm just so moved by his way of being and engaging the world. Michael Dowd, a minister of the earth and humanity's future, a dear brother and friend. Yeah, this is Restoring the Earth. Really called forth compassion for that conversation.
Yes, and it's awesome. Boy, don't miss this panel. Imagine putting those four together. Dwayne Elgin, James O'D, the Reverend Michael Beckwith, and Ambassador Chowdhury from the United Nations. It's stunning. And Barbara, you're on two panels. You opened up this topic of awaken new species within you, and I'll just share a little bit that Barbara had come to me and Humanities team a couple months ago to share that she was really excited about creating an intensive, a call to action for all of the planet that was based on this Homo Universalis, so awakening the new species in you. And it's based on the process she created to awaken herself. I think we can see, looking on camera, Barbara is a Homo Universalis. She's inhabiting she's already crossed over. So Barbara and Neale Donald Walsch is on that panel with you. Do you want to talk about that, and then I'll bring up this other panel?
Oh, well, you know what I'm getting, Steve? Just an amazing thought that you've done. You believe in global oneness. You have created Global Oneness Day with all these people, each of whom has an element of global oneness. That I am feeling as I'm listening to this, the orchestration of the Global Oneness Day. And I'm imagining, as we're going to be inviting people to be on Awaken the New Species, we're going to invite everybody. I'm going to invite everybody when I get on. But let's imagine that their voices are going to be synthesized in such a way that would live what Teilhard de Chardin had said could be possible. That the noosphere, the thinking layer, would get its collective eyes. And I really want to talk to Dwayne about this, that just imagine that everybody on Global Oneness Day is a unique voice, not only about their theme, but also if they could lift their voices toward a shared purpose that we all share. And let's call it a planetary awakening in love. Let's just call it that. That needs every single voice in order for it to happen. That I would like to be inviting everybody, whatever else the panel does, is to give its gift to the planetary awakening consciously, so we could hear a chorus.
Yes, fantastic. And let me share, if you go to, if you want to learn about some free webinars,